Folks, you got to appreciate this guy. It's the wholesome one talking Miami football with us. We appreciate his knowledge, his insight, and his enthusiasm for the Canes. And a lot to talk about as they prepare for a 2020 college football season. We got the wholesome one on the line for Miami Hurricanes Live, our 79th edition. Wholesome one, how you doing, man?
We're doing well. We have a little sad news this week. But the young men are still hitting the football field. We're rushing the QB. We're getting the ball off quick. And we got another scrimmage coming up this Saturday, man. So we're pretty excited moving forward for the Miami Hurricanes.
I'd like to apologize to a lot of people out there that like to catch us on a weekly basis. And sometimes we do 2 a week. That the notification went out about 15 minutes before we came on. We just have schedules flying all over the place. And that's the big reason why you subscribe. Hit the bell for the notifications. You know when we're going live because we can't make this a specific day and time each and every week. So you got to just be flexible with the wholesome one and myself, with Cam Underwood and myself. And that's why you check him out on YouTube as well. It's right below you on the banner there. Wholesome one, HOLSUM, and the number 1 right here on YouTube. And that's why you lock into Miami Football Talk with us right here. So, man, wholesome one, we appreciate it. We had a scrimmage. The boys were on the field on Sunday. The bad news that you referred to is Avonte Williams, and so much promise, so much thought, and so much anticipation of seeing this. I know that between you and Cam talking about we got to see it play out, but in regards to prototype size, speed, explosiveness, hitting ability, awareness, instinct, the complete package, just the ceiling is through the roof. Unfortunate that we're not going to be able to see him.
Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see him for the 2020 season. And I think that what happened, because there was rumors and word got out about Michael Pinckney, someone who was misdiagnosed since his sophomore season here at the University of Miami. He goes to the NFL draft and he gets diagnosed with something way worse than he thought. It was just ankle or knee injuries. It turned out to be a hip that now to this day he hasn't signed with the NFL team because of that injury. Now the official injury, I don't know if it was a fibula or not, but it ended up getting him undrafted and he wasn't able to sign with the team. And it's August already due to this injury. He just now started to be able to work out and lift and run to the ability that Michael Pinckney should. So the University of Miami it's a heightened awareness with something like that, and they are taking it to the next level and trying to figure out any little thing that they can find out in advance and work on it, because you don't want to get to the end of someone's career or halfway through, and then you have to cut it. This way we can set him out for the fall season. He'll be ready again in January, can put them together, retest it, see what it is. It has not been disclosed what the injury is, but I believe that Avonte, mixed with Coach Dave Feely, mixed with what we have at the training staff at the University of Miami, they'll be able to figure it out and get him on the field when he is 100% ready to go and produce for the University of Miami. And not only was the sad news about Avonte, we also had the passing of local high school coach Aubrey Hill, former head coach at Carroll City, who was the head coach for Cam Harris and a couple other, and Coach Hippolyte when he was there at Carroll City. So, rest in peace to him. And it was very tough for a lot of us from Dade County. Coach Aubrey Hill is a really good man, and a lot of people in Miami were really hurt with the passing of Coach Aubrey Hill. So it was back-to-back sad news, but, you keep your head up, you keep pushing forward, and you understand that, hey, you got to take it one day at a time.
Yeah, it's when you lose somebody, anyone that's had an impact on so many lives out there in a positive way, it's a day to be remembered and honor that life. No question about that. And that service to a lot of young men.
Absolutely.
Got the wholesome one on the line. Yeah. Talking Miami football as we do each and every week. And everybody who's on the line, we just sent out the notification. We just jumped on here. We got 39 on the line, and it's growing quickly. So we always appreciate that. That just means that hashtag Rewatch Squad is going to be in full force, even more so this time around. So, man, we appreciate you, wholesome one, in jumping on here to get into Miami football talk, because this was our one opportunity, our one window this week. All right. last Sunday was the scrimmage, as we
Yes,
mentioned.
it was. Yes, it was.
Sometimes
It was
difficult to
exciting.
get.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, sometimes difficult to get viable information out of those scrimmages to find out really what happened, what shined. Somebody might pick off a pass and then it gets overhyped. Oh, so-and-so freshman cornerback picked off a pass. Well, he might have just been standing there and the ball was thrown to him or tipped right in his hands. He wasn't necessarily playing great play to play, those sorts of things. Or, quarterback battle. Somebody throws a pick. Oh, it's the worst thing in the world. This guy threw a pick in the red zone. So some things get overblown, and it's just difficult to get information and an accurate assessment what's going on. But what can you gather from everything that you know?
Well, the statistics is one thing. I mean, it's exciting to sit and watch and read some of these statistics. We would have loved to seen a little more than 65 seconds worth of highlights. I mean, they've kind of stepped it up at the University of Miami with the highlight tapes. I mean, you used to get like 30 seconds of guys just running a couple passes and boom, that's it. And you're like, all right, and since that all you're going to give us, so they gave us a whole minute. So thank you for that. But De'Aaron King was, I'm going to say, big time, exciting, but he was 15 of 26 for 178 yards and 4 touchdowns. So it was good to, hear he's throwing those 4 touchdowns. You hear the defensive coordinator, Blake Baker, talk about how electric and dynamic that offense is and how fast and up-tempo it is and how it's also forcing his defensive players to be ultra communicative. I mean, you got to be able to talk, man. You got to talk, not just hand signals. We're yelling across. We all need to be on the same page. We probably have to say this a maximum of 2 times, and then you look and you understand what you're about to go against, and you go. Even Zach McCloud, inside linebacker Zach McCloud, talked about up-tempo offense forces you that you can't think you know what you know. You must know that you know that you know. This was a call. This is whatever code name we're using for that call. I got it. The guy next to me got it. Now I need to go as the inside linebacker for my calls for the front 4. And you need to be able to know what's going on at warp speed. And then if you give up a play, all right, here we go. Get back in the huddle or line back up. Let's communicate to everybody else what we're in. Send whatever hand signals, yell, and go. So that's the other good thing about a scrimmage is you're able to take what you've been going against in practice and try to simulate the game speed. So it may have been fast in practice. Now they're going to turn it up a notch and make it even faster in this scrimmage. And I think that's going to work well because about 80 to 90% of the teams we play in the Coastal, I'm going to say like 90 now, are all up-tempo spread offenses. So we have not been practicing against that week to week to week to week to week and had to go against it on Saturdays. And the only time we went against it was in scout team. And now you're able to go against that every day. So just by going up against it, iron and sharpen iron, you're going to get a lot better. Okay. The other thing that a lot of people are nervous or not really knowing about is in these scrimmages, you never know who's going against whom. When you really go live scrimmage, you rarely get 1v1 for a long time. So you might get 1s versus 1s the opening drive or 1s versus 1s to close it out or maybe right before halftime. But you get a lot of 1 versus 2 first team versus second team offense or second team defense, versus first team defense versus second team offense. So you don't really know who's going against who when we get these stats sent to us or, you read up on articles and things of that nature. You don't know if the scout team guys are out there or if they went with a whole freshman wide receiving core for that drive, and that's when the interception tipped off the wide receiver's hands in the air, like you were saying. You don't know. So you got to kind of take it all and appreciate what you get. Marcus Clark got his first career interception as a Miami Hurricane. I mean, in a scrimmage. Freshman got it. I'm super excited about. Got an interception, and I was happy. We don't know who threw it, but what we can say is we're happy for Marcus Clark being able to get the ball in his hands and catch it. DBs usually don't have a good hand, so it's good to hear that he was able to get that. Gervin Hall led the team in tackles, so a guy who started a lot last year as our strong safety, free safety back and forth. Now he led the team in tackles for the first scrimmage with 7. You also had Sam Brooks, freshman linebacker last year, now a true sophomore linebacker that me and Cam talk a lot about, had 5 tackles, but also someone that we have been waiting for, Miami Central linebacker, Wayman Steed, showing up. Him and BJ Jennings are 2 guys that have been injured a lot. And now they finally get a chance that they're healthy. They're starting to show up. You know, you got Blake Baker talking about him at nauseam. You got Coach Manny Diaz talking about him. You got Zach McLeod talking about what they're bringing to the table and how they're pushing him to the point where he gets moved to weak side linebacker when Brad Jennings is getting first team reps. And he's the first team middle linebacker. You know, those are the type of things that you want to hear from these older players. Now, we wish that we would have seen it earlier, but injuries have been the reason why. So they're here proving that they're not just special teams guys. They are guys that are going to contribute to the Miami Hurricanes. Now, it's just the first scrimmage. So it's just the first scrimmage. We got another one coming up on Saturday. The number one thing, Mark, if you remember, you asked me, what's the one thing I wanted coming out of this scrimmage? The first thing that fell out of my mouth was health. No one was injured who participated in the scrimmage during the scrimmage. So we made it through healthy as far as playing the whole full speed and being healthy through the scrimmage. Now, Brevin Jordan set out the scrimmage due to some knickknacks. Nesta Severa, John Ford, and Jalir Holly, our top three defensive tackles, played either low snaps or did not participate at all in this previous scrimmage. They'll all be ready for Saturday's scrimmage. So it could just be some precautionary things. And those things happen. It doesn't always get out. But Coach Manny Diaz is willing to get out in front of a couple of those things and just let some of that stuff out. Yeah, some guys sat out, just nicks and bruises, especially up in the front seven. You're going to get a lot of that. You know, guys had a bruised knee or, you know, I know you want to be tough, but at the same time, if you're already kind of bruised up, you don't want a bruise to turn into an actual injury just off of a non-statistic scrimmage. You get what I'm saying? Christian Williams had 5 tackles and blitzing off the edge with 2 sacks. Corey Flagg, true freshman, had 2 sacks in the game. Chance Williams, remember we talked about Chance Williams, 4-star defensive end from Oakleaf, had 5 tackles and 2 sacks in the scrimmage. Again, we don't know who he was going against, but we're going to be happy for Chance getting his 2 sacks. Don Chaney Jr. with 11 rushes for 57 yards and a touchdown. But the reason why I waited all the way to the end to talk about this, my God, Jalen Knighton, listen to this, Mark, 10 carries, 10 for 126 yards and a TD. This guy is one of the best running backs in the state of Florida coming out of high school, and now is transitioning to him being at the University of Miami right now. Again, it's just a scrimmage, but it's exciting to be able to see some of that stuff translate because we've had plenty of guys signed to Miami. It takes 2 or 3 years to see that same guy we thought we were going to see in high school. And there's also sometimes where a guy goes his entire career and we never saw what we thought we were going to see here at the University of Miami. So Jalen Knighton flashing in his first scrimmage. You know, I'm not going to call him Duke Johnson. Just want to be the best Jalen Knighton that he can be. And from what I'm seeing, Rooster is doing his thing. Will Mallory with 4 receptions for 71 yards and a touchdown while Brevin Jordan was out. Mike Harley had 2 touchdown catches. Michael Redden III, 3 receptions for 41 yards. Xavier Restrepo, another slot receiver whose name you probably heard a lot between me and Cam. 2 receptions for 54 yards and an end around that he took 70 yards. End around, rush, 1 rush for 70-yard touchdown. N'Kosi Perry doing well. 8 passes, 8 of 13 for 140 yards and a touchdown. Jeremiah Payton, 3 receptions for 26 yards and a touchdown. Mark Pope had 3 receptions. D. Wiggins had a 41-yard bomb. Dom Mammarelli, 2 receptions, 41 yards. And something else we're excited about, Mark. Jose Borregales, a transfer from FIU, is making kicks. 6 of 6 for extra points and a 49-yard field goal made. He was 1 of 1 on field goals. So that means we were really good in the red zones where we didn't have to settle for field goals. But when we stalled out, he made his 1 field goal that was necessary. So that's good as far as the efficiency of us not getting on 4th down and having to kick a field goal. But when we did, he made it. Thank God.
All right, folks, leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics for the Wholesome One and myself. If it's strictly Miami football, he's probably going to be all over it. I may have something to say. You brought it out to the ACC or college football. I certainly have my opinions on everything going on at this point. I left this comment up there. So you got to respect Redbeard. He dives into every live chat. I know you don't like to see the as you would say, Tallahassee emblem there, but Mark Rogers on my lunch break. What will be a good rest of the day? It's funny as well, Wholesome One, because I didn't realize the situation I left you in last week, so I had to step off to deal with something just real quick. I had the Wholesome One on full screen. I stepped away. I came back and I caught that, and I left you up there with the Tallahassee post for like 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever it was. It was pretty funny
it's
to
okay,
see.
Mark. You know, sometimes I feel like you do it on purpose, but it's okay.
I got to say, everybody in the live chat, we appreciate all the encouraging comments. Unfortunately, we can't get to all of them, but believe me, we see them. We love the encouraging comments, the insightful comments, and so forth and so on. So we appreciate just everybody saying hi, saying you're doing a great job, all that good stuff. So thank you so much. We'll get to the comments and the questions. And one that came in was from Kings of the Frat Hag. Where it was just announced this week. Basically, I'm going to cut to the chase because I haven't read it verbatim all the way through. Been too busy the last couple of days. But basically, where this season is not going to count against eligibility.
See, so, I've heard about that. I'm excited about that, but I don't know if it's true.
I'm going to do some Google searches when I get a chance to see how much substance we have to that. But I think it's not just okay, somebody kicks this around on social media. I think this has some legs to it.
I think it does also, and I think the other thing that you're going to have to keep in mind is these other conferences that are not playing, they're going to want that year eligibility for their players too. So I think that it's a give and take, and then you have to think of the risk that our players in the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12 are doing by playing and by putting themselves out there. So I think it's a good give and take. And I believe that it is in the works. It just has not been voted on by the NCAA. I think that's the only issue right now.
Appreciate everyone on the live squad. And then, of course, you folks that will see it on the Rewatch Squad, hashtag Rewatch Squad, hashtag Live Squad. Get that notification squad. You got to fill that third box. Got to check that one off as well.
Got to get all three.
Ronan Jones, thank you so much for the super chat. What was that Wholesome One?
You got to be subscription squad. You know, subscribe squad. I mean, we acknowledge y'all. We love y'all. You know, y'all don't necessarily need a squad, but we'll give you if you need it. Because in order to be notification squad, you got to be subscribe squad. You know, so it's something that's already given. That's why we only have 3. You know, the notification squad, that's going above and beyond. Live squad, that means you're here when we press go. I mean, when you hit live, you're already here. You know, and Rewatch Squad, because not only are you all special, because once it goes up, Rewatch Squad is for the rest of the time that this video is on here. You know, it could be 15 years later and somebody will put hashtag Rewatch Squad, you know, so that's the exciting part about it, man. And we appreciate all 3 levels. We appreciate you all for being here.
I had somebody last week make a comment and criticize me for an opinion I had 4 years ago, thinking I guess they were thinking they posted a comment to a video from 2014, 6 years ago, 2014, acting like I made the comment last week about these teams. And I'm like, I made that comment 6 years ago. Even Clemson fans, Wholesome One. I'm ignoring my Zoom class for this. Jordan, our guy Jordan, who joins us on a regular basis. So
much love. Much love. Hey, listen, I'd much rather you leave a paw up there instead of that thing you keep putting up there.
So we've got college football fans that come in here from all over the map that listen to the Miami Talk because the Wholesome One's just that good. All right. So we've got a game on September 10th on a Thursday night against UAB.
Isn't that fast, Mark?
Yeah, it's coming.
Goodness gracious, 20 days. I mean, I got a whole bunch of stuff. I got position breakdowns. I mean, remember, we had already started doing that, and then we did the offense and defense, and then I got to do another schedule breakdown. I just realized that the other night. I'm like, wait, I haven't done any of my breakdowns yet. So I gotta get on my horse here. going position by position and breaking it down like I've been doing the last 2 seasons since 2018 here on YouTube. So I got to make sure I get it for my 3rd season going. But it's exciting. I mean, you got UAB that's returning 18 of 22 starters. Okay, they already have a quality coaching staff. They're going to come down to Miami to prove a point, man. And if we are not rolling, it can be another kind of like Toledo was back in 2017, where I believe we were only up by 7 or 10, and it was 30-20 at halftime, something like that. Or you can have a Central Michigan type effect where if we don't come to play offensively and the defense is struggling and they're on the line, it's 4th and goal and they have a chance to either tie or win the game. You know, stuff like that happens. But I think we have the staff. I think we have the leader in De'Aaron King, especially at QB, guy that everyone respects on this team. Active players, previous players, and coaching staff that respects our leaders. And this staff is experienced. So I believe that they're not going to let it just be, oh, well, you know, it's just UAB. Let's just line up and play football. We're faster than them. You know, we'll eventually make a play and win the game. No. You have a quality staff. You got a quality leader at QB. You got a defense that's been top 25 since 2016. And I believe that they're going to come and prove it. Now, what I believe and what we put on the dang football field sometimes has been 2 separate things. The one thing I am confident in, no matter what, this team is going to be focused and prepared. Are they going to come out slow? Maybe. But I would say probably about halftime or so, they'll get things right. And Coach Manny Diaz, as a head coach and as a defensive coordinator, has proven one thing. He makes halftime adjustments. Even if you watched last year, things that people did against us the first half, they didn't do very well against us, especially if you talk about from the defensive perspective. They didn't do that against us the second half. UNC jumped out and only scored 7 points the second half. You know, you look at Tallahassee, they had their one little surge. As soon as the half started, right after that, it stopped. It didn't come back again. You know, so even FIU, they had their touchdowns early, but it was all field goals after the second half, you know, even though it was a loss. But I'm saying he has a way of being able to take away what you're doing well, and then it's up to the other offense to make their adjustments, which I think UAB will because they have a quality staff and an older team. But besides that, I mean, that's exciting. It's at home. And I said, I think we're going to play the entire season, Mark. But even if we don't, what a good first 4 games. Let's say we don't even make it past that first bye week. You got home UAB. So it's not like you can just stuff it and it's FAMU. No, you got to show up and play. Then you're going to travel to Louisville. And we put a shellacking on them last year, even though they still put up 500 yards of total offense. You know I like talking about that. I was very angry about that. Anyway, we got to go play them. And then you're going to come home and have your rivalry game against Tallahassee. So those first 3 weeks, is nothing you could do to sit and relax and say, oh, well, we're the U. We got 5 national championships. We are all right. Got a Hall of Famer the last 2 times. They called Hall of Famers. We're good. We got it. Nope. You got to show up and play each and every week. Then you got the game, the best game you're going to have since Notre Dame 2017 on a national stage, probably. They're probably going to give us the Saturday night game to either, you know, have Miami have a chance to show the nation that they're for real. And De'Aaron King, there's going to be a lot of eyes, a lot of NFL eyes on that game. Or we fall flat on our face and we get shellacked by 42 points on national TV. So those first 4 games of the season, there is no way that you can sit back and say we have any room to breathe. And I think that's why we're recruiting as hard as we are. I think that's why Coach Manny Diaz went out and built the staff that he did, because you got this schedule. When you go into this offseason and you got the next 2 years non-conference, isn't like they were before. You got at Texas A&M. You got Alabama. You're going to be playing some quality squads here. You got Michigan State that's officially going to be on the schedule, you know, that's not remade. So you got to be able to have a quality staff and a quality team moving forward if you expect to win those non-conference games.
You could throw out a final score for this UAB game anywhere from, you could say Miami wins this game 45-14. I'd say, I believe it. You could say Miami struggles and wins 24-20. I believe it. You could go all over the map. If those two teams play 10 times, maybe Miami wins all 10. They probably win 9. UAB probably, they're that good. They played in the conference championship game last year. They won the conference championship the year before.
Yep.
Of course, Conference USA is probably the 7th or 8th best conference in the nation out of 10. And I've run the numbers the last few years. The group of 5 beats the Power 5 about 15 to 20% of the time, something in that range. They'll usually play about 100 games. Group of 5 will win about 15, 18 games. It'll be like 82-18. So they win about 15 to 20% of those games. Obviously, the Boise States of the world are typically winning the games. The UCFs and the Boise States and Houston when they were really good. Those
Florida State
are usually against Florida State in the Peach Bowl. Usually winning those games. But just look at just look at FIU. Obviously, they completed the deal. And then look at Western Michigan earlier in the year when you're scuffling around scoring 17 points against Western Michigan. And it's a 1-score game. And they were coming off either the week before or the week after. Wisconsin beat them 61-0.
I think it was the week before, Mark.
So that's when when you got Wisconsin, Miami, we could argue talent. I don't think you can really argue Miami's got more speed, but you could argue NFL talent and how good they are. It's comparable. That's a focused, what you get out of Wisconsin. This is what Miami needs to do. They need to know who they are, and they need to be disciplined enough to say, we're playing Western Michigan. Wisconsin goes out there and beats them 61-0 because they can, because it's no different to them than going out against Nebraska or Iowa or Ohio State in the future weeks. They bring it every week. And they may not be the most talented every time, but man, that program is consistent.
And the funny part is the guy who built their program, is it Alvarez?
Barry Alvarez. Yeah.
He was the guy that Donna Shalala wanted to be our head coach when she got the job. And people did not want him anywhere near the program. And if you look at it from bird's eye view in a Miami's mindset, you're going to think, why we don't want to be Wisconsin. Wouldn't you love 15 to 20 years of consistency and then being able to be put over the top by the Miami athleticism?
Yeah, if you know anything about Big Ten football and what's happened there in the last 3 decades, so Barry Alvarez was the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, and he was exceptional. They won national championships, the whole deal. And then he's looking for his next job. And I've seen the documentary on the 1993 Wisconsin team that won the Rose Bowl. And that doesn't seem like a big deal right now. They go to Rose Bowls all the time. They were awful. They were going like 2-9 in the Big Ten over and over. They were awful. While I was growing up watching in the late 70s, throughout the 80s, Wisconsin was awful. And he shows up, and within a year, they're competing with Ohio State, Michigan. Within 2 years, they go and they win the Rose Bowl, finish in the top 5 in the nation. And they showed that whole transition and talked about him possibly going to Miami and how close it was and all of that. It's in the documentary about the 93 Wisconsin Rose Bowl team.
And like I said, I mean, we are, especially on my channel, we try not to be, in the past. I mean, we had the conversation about Coach Randy Shannon. We've had the conversation about Al Golden. Especially that's always off-season talk. We like to be this point moving forward. And I think for the first time since Butch Davis was here, we have somewhat of stability in our program. Now, it has to be proven, but as far as the buy-in from the administration, from the Board of Trustees, I mean, this is the highest it's ever been. So whatever they're going to financially put into it, especially allowing Coach Manny Diaz to be able to go out and hire quality assistants and quality GAs and QCs who could be position coaches, and you got them as a GA or a QC, that's starting to lay a foundation for building something to the next level. And we talked about that game, that Toledo game, when I said we weren't focused coming off of that hurricane stop back in 2017. Mark, Toledo was up 16-10 at the half.
I remember that.
We were getting booed. Like at home, it was bad. We ended up winning 52-30, but Toledo was leading. Like that type of stuff happens when the team isn't focused. You got one team who's playing in their Super Bowl, and the other one is just lollygag. So imagine if the offense didn't show up, and Dan Enos was our offensive coordinator. The reason why we say Enos, Mark, is because there's no O in his name because there's no offense.
I love that. I was going to say, did he just call him Enos? He knows better than that.
Enos, Dan Enos. There's no O because he had no offense. It's a Miami area. It's a Canes thing that came on. Dante Colon came up with it on the channel, and people have ran with it ever since. So,
wholesome one. What I find interesting about Miami's scheduling is that, if I remember this correctly, they went to Toledo the next year.
Yeah.
And they didn't kill them. It was like a 1 or 2 score game, and then Miami blew them out like in the fourth quarter. Yeah. I don't remember what the final score was. I'll look it up here in a second. But it might have been like 38-13, but it was like 20-13 or 21-13. And then you guys stepped on the gas like in the fourth quarter, tacking on a couple.
Yeah.
I remember DJ Dallas. What's that?
49-24.
49-24. Okay. I remember DJ Dallas I remember DJ Dallas like stepping on guys, like trampling guys on one or two runs. Just nobody could tackle him.
You know what's even wilder, Mark? If you think about it, remember we were on upset alert back in 2016 when we went to Appalachian State.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, I absolutely do.
Oh,
and I get it, but when that team's there you see the difference in levels of play. When everybody's coming to play, and you know App State was there to play, obviously, you can see what happens, what can happen. What was that game like? 42-13, 38-13, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, look it up.
You beat them pretty bad.
I know Mark Walton went 73 on the first play, and I was in my dorm throwing stuff like, yes, because I was so mad. They were down talking us that entire, like right before the game. I mean, the 45-10 was the final score.
45-10. Okay.
And I mean, the players talk ad nauseum about when they went to go play those lower tier schools, especially under Al Golden. Remember, we lost a lot of those games. We lost at Cincinnati in 2015. We were down 20-7 versus FAU that same year. In 2000, it took a monstrous comeback in the fourth quarter to win that 30-20. So, I mean, it was bad under Coach Al Golden when we played those lower tier teams. Because that was the thing. I mean, I remember Herb Street saying, like, 10 years ago, this was disrespectful. But this team, under the last head coach, because that was Mark Richt's first year, and his second game coaching at Miami. And they were just like, we're going to put them on upset alert because we don't know which Miami team shows up. The real Miami team shows up, they'll win by 40. But if the Al Golden Miami Hurricanes show up, they're on upset alert and could easily lose this game. But that's one thing Mark Richt didn't lose. He didn't lose games that he should win. He lost games. Excluding Pitt 2017. But I'm saying as far as against those lower level or group of 5 or FCS schools, Mark Richt made sure his teams were focused and they weren't losing games like that.
And what I also find interesting about that is Miami went to Toledo. Miami went to App State. Miami had a scheduled game at Arkansas State that was canceled. I'm trying to think of another program at that level that travels to places like that. I can't think of anybody.
Well,
and I got schedules and scores locked up in this brain. I'm not thinking nobody, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, they don't go travel to group of 5 schools. They don't play in front of 30,000 people at a max school or wherever. They don't do that.
Here's the thing, Mark. I don't know if you know the story, but back in 2000, because games are like 2 or 3 years ahead, sometimes like 5 or 6 years ahead. But back in 2013, there was an opportunity for the Miami Hurricanes to play Wisconsin. And the Packers.
Don't you guys play Wisconsin enough?
Oh, God. I don't even. That's the team I don't.
Sorry to interrupt, but it's been 3 bowl games in what, about 10 years?
3, and it's not good. So what happened was Al Golden, Coach Al Golden, and our athletic director, who wanted to schedule this game, and Al Golden said, it's better to be undefeated at the end of the year can have a couple of tough losses. So in his mind, when him and the AD sat down and created a schedule, he wanted us to be undefeated non-conference, which would be a guaranteed 4 wins. And then maybe you lose 1 or 2 in conference, which always makes you a 10-2, 9-3 type of team. So that was his mindset. And the reason why I get that, that's not from reading. He said it in an interview before, you know, I would much rather be undefeated than have a couple of tough losses. So when you look at how Coach Al Golden set up that schedule, and you saw the big difference when Coach Mark Richt came in 2016, because then you had games moving forward now with Alabama that came out under Coach Mark Richt's watch. You have the Florida game that came out in 2019, and also Coach Manny Diaz set up the one in 2023. That's going to be a home and home for 22 and 23. The Texas A&M games. The Alabama game came with Coach Mark Richt as the head coach for the 2021 season. So you saw the big difference when Coach Mark Richt was here. And then you saw when Coach Al Golden was here. So people want to point the finger to our AD. No. They all sit down and have this discussion. And you see with 2 other head coaches, we're playing quality teams, but with 1 other head coach, we're playing at max schools. So let the cards fall as they may. Read in between those lines.
So we'll get to some of these questions here, and people understand that some of these questions are difficult to navigate if you don't have like the roster in front of you and know everybody's specific years and scholarships. The whole question about how are scholarships going to work going forward if you give another year to all these kids, and then you got other kids coming in and obviously from high school football, and how that's all going to work. You might as well just save your questions, because the people that have to figure that out haven't figured it out yet. So we don't have those answers yet. But King of the Frat Tag is asking here, if the redshirt rule gets approved for 6 games, it's currently 4 games, and Brevin stays healthy, would Will Mallory redshirt to start for 2 years?
I think that is a good question. I believe that it would be up for conversation, but I don't really see him. I mean, yeah, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. If Brevin stays healthy and leaves, so that means Will Mallory would only play those 6 games, redshirt this year, and then come back next year, and start for 2. I wouldn't say 2 years after that, but I think the 6-game sample size he would have, plus a full year as a starter in 2021, would probably be enough for him to leave, based on the scenario that you gave. But I mean, that's actually not a bad theory. I don't know how it would work, but that's not a bad theory. I mean, there's a lot going on about this, especially because you got the 6-game rule that people are talking about that hasn't been approved. And you also have, you could play the whole 10, 11 games and it doesn't matter at all. I mean, it doesn't charge a year eligibility. So either way, you'll be fine. So, I mean, like you said, Mark, the people whose job it is to make these decisions don't even know about it just yet.
Sure, there's going to be certain attention given to the future, but you got to realize for these 3 conferences that are still aiming to play, man, they're just monitoring the health situation, testing status, all that, just to get a season completed, because we get hit every other day with 9 guys at Oklahoma, such and such number of guys here or there testing positive. And, oh, what would that mean if that happened during the season? And let's get through the college football season as it stands right now, because a lot of these things that are being, and understandably, I'm in favor of just about all of them. I hear that make this a special case, and let's protect the athletes that are competing right now to protect their eligibility. And then we'll worry about the numbers and how that works. Do we have to expand past 105 on a roster, or 85 scholarships, or whatever? They'll figure that out. They'll work the metrics, the numbers, and obviously the finances, unfortunately, have to play into it as well. Or you would just say, well, we'll tack on 50 scholarships, but obviously those are pretty valuable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Florida State folks are rather riled up today, and And that's always becomes an interesting dynamic to read the comments back and forth from Florida State and Miami. I know
That has
that
to be funny for you as someone who watched both teams rise to the top and be
I
so
sure did.
dynamic, and it was a must-see game to whether it was the first game of the year, the third game of the year, or concluding the year,
It was.
you
Yes.
had to sit and watch it. I mean, and then you also had some rare occasions where it was a bowl game in the Orange Bowl back in 2004.
Yeah.
You
A
know,
rematch. That
and
was
how
sweet.
many guys you saw on the football field that you watched translate. You know, maybe you watched, I don't know if you were really keen in the state of Florida high school ball, but you at least saw them from freshman or the first time they took a snap in that game to the last time they took a snap in that game. And then all the guys who went on to be first-round draft picks. And then not only first-round draft pick, all the guys who went on to be Hall of Famers from that rivalry, you know, from your landscape as not a Miami or Tallahassee guy, but you can admire from afar, like, that game was it, and it hasn't been for a decade.
Yeah, I was a nerd growing up that, man, and I didn't spend all my time inside, that's for sure, man. I played athletics. I played on the high school baseball team. I played high school football. So I was doing all that too. I love to be outside, but man, I don't know where I found all the time. But man, I was the guy, the kid that had all sorts of athlons and Lindy's stacked up and reading and memorizing every little statistic. And so Florida State, Miami would hit the field, and I knew the starting lineups. I knew everybody out, and I didn't care who won the game. It was just sheer enjoyment of watching two of the very best programs and teams in the nation. And one of the big disappointments was, I still remember the 88 game. I think Florida State was number one. This was game 1 or 2.
Yeah, after we won the 87 national championship. Yeah.
And Deion was still, this was his senior year at Florida State. After then it became the greatest, probably top 5 NFL draft ever. Derek Thomas, Troy Aikman, Deion, etc. Barry Sanders. Anyway, I couldn't believe as talented, fast, explosive Florida State was. Again, Deion Sanders, and then we could go on from there. Miami was that much better that night. 31-zip, I believe, was the final score. And I thought we were going to see, 31-28 down to the final kick or something like that, but which we did in later years, of course. But that night, man, Miami just was on they were like an NFL team out there.
You don't come to the crib creating a rap after we just won the national championship and the AP poll put you ahead of us after we just, it was too much energy. And look at me talking like I was there. My study of the program, and of course the U documentary and the U part 2. But at that time, it was just the U documentary that came out in 2011. Man, the guys who talked about how like they were smelling salt, man. It was just like they couldn't wait to get on the field. How disrespected they felt, And I don't know who Bobby Bowden knows, but they always got a little bit more love than they deserved sometimes. And just, I don't know. I don't understand ESPN's affinity with that program. I understand their hate towards us. I do understand it, and we embrace it, and it's okay. But I guess they're just the antithesis of us, and that's why they love them so much more than they love them even more than they hate us. And if it was ever between us and them, they would always pick them.
When Miami played for the national championship against Nebraska in 1983, if for anybody who was paying attention, this had been coming since about 79. Jim Kelly was the quarterback. They were really good, but people that were on the fringe didn't really pay attention because you were still locked into everything was Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, etc. You didn't see that Miami was coming, but by 83, obviously they had arrived, and they just brought a whole new dimension of football to the game. It was fascinating to watch Nebraska's power, Miami's speed, and it was an all-time classic. But it would be like, people don't realize it now, it would be like I'm trying to pick out a program that would play for a national championship this year. It would be like, I guess it would be like UCF playing for a national championship. It was like almost looked at like that, like Miami's playing. What why are they in this game and where did this come from? And it was kind of thought of because you saw the same, and it was the same. The same thing was happening, even though they didn't get there as soon with Florida State at the same time. Florida State, Bobby Bowden knew that he needed to start scheduling, and they went on death marches. And they were both independents at the time, so they could schedule whoever they want. But Florida State for a few years went on death marches, and when I say that, I mean they were going to Notre Dame, Nebraska, Ohio State, 3 consecutive weeks. They were like playing anybody they could, and nobody would go there and play. All those schools were too uppity. We're not going to Florida. Who's Florida State? We're not going there and playing. And then Florida State would go up there and kick their tail. And it was like, where did this program come from as well? I remember them playing Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl in '79. It was like, how did Florida State get to the Orange Bowl? Where did this come from? So they both arrived, they both started keeping all that Florida talent, and they both arrived at the same time. Miami obviously put a capper on it. And then they just, you could argue, dominated college football for the next 12 to 14 years.
And that's what I'm saying as far as how far it's fallen off now to where we're like a noon Saturday game on ESPN2 or a 3:30 game on ABC where it's like a filler game before the primetime game. The last time that it was a huge gradual buildup and you had a lot of NFL guys all on the same field at the same time, probably would say back in, it was back-to-back years, 13 and 14. And they came out on top both years, but you had, in 13, it was 2 undefeated teams. Number 2 versus number 7. And I was at the Wake Forest game the week before. Well, we had a bye week, so it was 2 weeks before. And it was a 1-score game down to the wire. We were 6-0 against Wake Forest, who was like 3-3 at that time. But they were one of those, it's just like, a Georgia Tech or, one of those teams to where every 4 years they have a whole bunch of seniors, a well-coached team that's been in this program for a while, huge senior leadership, and they give a really good team a run for their money, and you got to show and play your best game. And that's what happened with Miami versus Wake Forest. But then 2 weeks later, we went up to Tallahassee. ABC game day was there. I mean, you had Duke Johnson, you had Denzel Perryman, you had Anthony Chickalo for Miami. Stephen Morris thrown on a slightly torn Achilles against that Winston guy and that future national championship team that won that year. Then the next year they came down to Miami. We were up 26-3 and ended up losing that game. With a freshman Brad Kaya, Clyde Wofford on a skinny post, breaks for 45 yards. Oh my goodness. I think about it all. Mark, if we could win that game, I think the trajectory of the program is different in 14. Even though we went on to be 6-6 and they went on to be a playoff team and got shellacked by Oregon, which was my second favorite game of all time. Whenever I'm having a bad day, I watch that game. It makes me feel really good. I mean, it just kept scoring and kept scoring and kept scoring, and it was.
I enjoyed that year too. Just the playoff in general that year.
I bet you did.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
I mean, that Ohio State team. Oh my goodness! Now, one of the most saddening things was not seeing that team go to the playoffs again the next year. And I think they would have been in a great mix that next year because they were overly talented. Because I think almost the whole team came back, But
they were pretty much sophomores.
Exactly. And you look back years from then, especially if you just talk O-line, D-line. Oh my God.
I don't want to make this an Ohio State show, but I could go on about that team and what they blew it the next year. But
it's a Miami live.
Game.
Don't get too lost on me, Mark.
I'm not going to do it. I'm holding back. What I wanted to check out here because I love the comment from Hurricanes Chris. So he says, "Yes, sirree, I made it. I subbed to this channel and Mark Rogers TV Miami channel too." So what I'm going to tell everybody out there is the most important thing that you could do to help us out today would be to go over to the Wholesome Ones channel. It's Wholesome One Holloway. I'll put up the banner here pretty soon. I just Googled, or not even Googled, on YouTube, searched just Wholesome One, just HOLSUM and the number 1. And it's the first thing right at the top. So it's right there. So subscribe. And then you also, if you really want to help out my channel, I'm completely transparent about this. If you subscribe to my Miami channel, you are simply helping me out. You're not going to get anything additional. Sometimes at times I've put other things over there that you don't get on the regular channel, but it's just a different way to watch Miami football and what we provide here. Like, I will go through this live stream with a Wholesome One and I'll pick out segments, and you're not going to miss anything over there, but it's like, oh, you'll be able to watch the 5 minutes on De'Ara King or this 8 minutes on recruiting or the whatever. So you can pick out what you want to watch, but I'm not trying to fool anyone. There's nothing additional over there. Typically, it's just another way to support what we do, is to subscribe to all the channels. We don't drive you crazy. You just get the notifications. If you don't care to watch that particular video, you move on. But man, it would be just a tremendous help if everybody watching would subscribe to the Wholesome One. And again, if you put it in the search bar in YouTube, it's the top thing. You got the double H, boom, H1H. Man, I need somebody to give me a fancy emblem like that. That looks good. The logo looks great.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
That is first rate.
Have you seen the H1H gaming logo? That one's even like cooler.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a whole separate logo for that one. I mean, hey, yeah, Marcus, it's been a long. If you've been on here, you've seen my videos since 2018. When I created the name and I came up with it, people always ask me where I got it from. Well, it was from my offensive line coach who passed away. And he's like, man, you're always like preaching to people and you're always positive. You're wholesome. From that day forward, he forgot my last name, Holloway. And he would always just call me Wholesome. And, you know, people who knew me from playing ball always called me Wholesome. Instead of like Pops or Preach or whatever, or Rev, they called me Wholesome. So that's where I get the nickname from. And I just rolled with it. But it was hard to spell because a lot of people do the WHOLESOME. So then once we got the Wholesome rolling in the algorithm, it took a couple months, took probably over a year. But once we got it rolling in the algorithm, it's exciting to see where it is now. You know, when people are like, yeah, I'm able to find it with no problem. Because it wasn't always like that. You know, it wasn't always the easiest thing to be able to search.
We appreciate everybody on the live chat. Once again, do everything you possibly can to support us. We got the super chat on at all times. Ronan Jones, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Like the videos. I say this all the time. I don't know how many people really get this part of it, Wholesome One, but if they would take our videos and throw them in their social media, like Twitter, Facebook, just put the link out there. There's a zillion people out there that have no idea who either one of us are, that you're friends with on Twitter, Facebook, whatever. And whether they just love college football and they just want to take in whatever, or they're Miami fans specifically, they will never find us. There's a small percentage chance that they will ever find us because there's a million YouTubers out there, unless you know, you got your 100 followers on Twitter or your 1,000 or 3. I don't care what the number is. Circulate these videos if you want to see us succeed here and keep doing what we're doing.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, I always look at it. I say everybody got a brother, sister, cousin, auntie that loves the Canes. You know, share the channel with them. I mean, we got so many ways that sending out a text message. There's plenty of group chats out there. There's Facebook groups out there, and that's how I built my foundation, was the Miami Hurricanes Facebook groups on that app, and just would copy and share. And then, you know, because we can see in our algorithm where, you know, our stuff comes from and our analytics, man. And it's always good to see, you know, subscribe and people who are unsubscribed. It's also good to see people who are, you know, notifications and think your percentage of that. But it's always good to see other on there. And it's like, for me, it's Canes Inside. It's also message, you know, MSM messages or iPhone text messages. So it's always good to see that type of thing, man. And like I said, we just appreciate all that you all do for us.
So the comment from Adrian Richards reminds me to tell everyone that with the re-release of all the schedules in the ACC and the SEC and the Big 12, I believe they announced theirs. So the actual calendar dates, obviously causes me to have to resort and go back through it. And so I'm starting to release SEC schedule breakdowns with my predictions of every game. And obviously, if you want to get people riled up, you start predicting games. I released Florida yesterday. Gators fans are not happy with me predicting Florida to go 7-3. And I remind people, when they think some upset picks are crazy, wholesome one, I've charted this for 3 years now. If you take the top 25 games every week, and then you also expand that out to the Power 5, 20 to close to 25% of the games, and it's almost every week, like it's clockwork. It's crazy. So it's about, usually there's about 19 to 22 top 25 games. Mm-hmm. About 4 of them to 5 are upsets every week. It's almost like clockwork. So when you're predicting games, people will be like, they just want you to predict chalk. Like just, but if you're just predicting chalk, that's not, first of all, that's not what's going to happen. Those are the safest predictions to make. You're going to make yourself look okay. You're not going on a limb. But basically, if you want to predict what's going to happen and try to do your best, you've got to find upsets, because there's going to be 2 to 3 for every 10 game schedule that's out this year. 2 to 3 of those games are going to be upsets.
Oh yeah.
And I picked Florida to go 7-3, and I got Gators fans all over me, raving mad. So I say that just to say I'm carving through every schedule, making my predictions, and Miami's coming. So maybe I'll have Canes fans mad at me, or maybe they won't be, because, man, I'm looking at that Clemson game and starting to get a hunch for that one.
Uh-oh, Mark. Listen. And you know the funny thing about it would be, go there and play the game of our lives, win a close one, come home and lose to Virginia. And you would just be like, like that would be such the Al Golden Kane thing to do, is to go play your heart out, go toe-to-toe with the best team. You may come out with a win or a close L, and then show up home and get shellacked by a Virginia or a Tech or a Georgia Tech.
And what's funny is people find that when you make these predictions, they think like it's impossible to say that'll never happen. That'll never happen. And sure, you got to go out on a limb a little bit, but even the elite programs, Ohio State's had top 5 teams in the country. They beat all the top 10 teams on their schedule. They went to Purdue and lost. The year before, they went to Iowa and lost. A decent Iowa team, but they beat like 4 top 10 teams. They go to Iowa and lose. Clemson, who we talked about it last week, who have they lost to the last week? Syracuse, Pitt, almost NC State, overtime. It's not always the obvious games that they lose.
Oklahoma, Iowa State.
Yes.
Like
Army took them to double overtime.
Yep. Oregon and ASU turned out to be a solid team, but Oregon was rolling at that time.
Yes. Oh, we could go on and on and on.
And it happens. The biggest thing is you look at some of these other great staffs, and it's how you rebound, how you're able to, get your leaders to get the team to galvanize and understand this happened. We put it behind us. We're going to watch the film on Sunday. It's going to be a whole bunch of people in their feelings. But how do we prepare for the next week? And how do we move this forward, going into the week of prep for this upcoming Saturday? One of the toughest things is if you have a bye week after a tough loss. And it's like, man, you're going to spend that whole week stewing, and then you got to wait a whole another week to take it out on the next team. So now that we have a quality staff, we're going to see what we're going to do. What's up, Curveball?
Folks, we appreciate it. Man, I love when these shows go into overtime, because I could keep the wholesome one here and keep it rolling, but I've got things to move on to, and he does as well. Wholesome one, you made it work this week for us. We appreciate it so much. Rewatch Squad, it's your time to kick it into gear. Live Squad, we appreciate it. And even remember, if you're part of the Live Squad, #Live Squad, you probably missed a few minutes. You might have missed 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes. So you can check both of those boxes. Come on back. Check out what you missed.
Absolutely. Now, if you're part of the #Notification Squad, then you were here for the whole thing. So you see how it works. It's a maturation process. Thank you so much, Mark, for allowing me on your platform again, talking those Canes. We went over Avonte Williams sitting out the season, being able to, he's not going to play this season. We also went over the scrimmage. And, hey, I appreciate everybody. Swing on over to the Host One Holloway's channel. If you love gaming, swing over to H1H Gaming and check that out. It's a 2019 season redo for the Miami Hurricanes. Have a great day. Go Canes.
See you, everybody. We'll see you soon.